Thanks so much, Sue, and I do not mind staying up at all. I would be up anyway, so it's a pleasure to be speaking at the Festival of New MR again this year. And with my time today, I'm going to discuss a major development that I believe, and I think many of my industry colleagues agree, occurred this year, which is to cite some evidence around what we believe is very clear that the tipping point for mobile in our industry has occurred. So I'm going to start today by presenting some of Kinesis's metadata around respondent device usage because even though, and perhaps because we've been making predictions around it for so long, the data really still continue to astound me. If you're wondering what the number on the slide represents, in the third quarter of this year in the United States, mobile device usage represented 30.74% of Kinesis's overall survey traffic. So we realize that NewMR always generates a global audience, and I'm just going to say that thus far the percentage of traffic is significantly higher in the U.S. than in other regions, and I'll get to the other regions in a minute. So there's a fundamental shift in the manner in which society communicates, shops, and makes purchases and engages with brands, which is the force necessitating change within our industry. Market research practices are adapting to this change and not driving it. For several years now, many within the industry have predicted that the next year would be the year when mobile research practices would become part of the mainstream. Based on the tremendous opportunities that mobile technologies have presented to our field and the manner in which people are electing to communicate using mobile devices, the widespread usage for surveys and research communities has really seemed to be right around the corner for quite some time. The reasons for the repeated prediction are valid. Mobile data usage and smartphone market share have continued to expand rapidly. The sales of tablets are outpacing PCs. Mobile data collection offers market research very many real methodological enablers like access to location-based information, barcode scanning through on-device applications, collection of data at the point of sale and consumption, and the ability to capture media with quantitative responses, mixing qual and quant, and many more. In reality, mobile data collection has been steadily growing year by year, although the use of desktop devices for completing online research still greatly exceeds the use of mobile and tablet devices. You'll see some more data in a minute. Obviously, Kinesis, as one of the first and most dominant platforms for mobile survey execution, may provide some leading indicators that are not necessarily representative of the entire industry, but still I think that we see a growing number of companies reporting their mobile traffic with numbers ranging anywhere from 5% to 20% at various marketing forums. So the industry appears to have reached a strong consensus that mobile respondents are now a significant percentage of overall market research respondents, both for quantitative and for qualitative projects. So let's dig a little deeper into what the stats tell us. But first, I'd like to just go back a little bit in time and present a timeline of what our mobile traffic has looked like historically. We've monitored our mobile traffic for several years, and this year has experienced the most dramatic increase percentage-wise, hearkening back maybe to a time when the iPhone was introduced. And for the first time, we feel certain that these increases are occurring globally and not just here in the United States. So to back up a bit, prior to 2007, our mobile traffic consisted almost exclusively of mobile diaries and camera phone ethnographies, with the majority of traffic coming from mobile ad testing. There was no single device that dominated in terms of usage. You might recall Nokia was very popular in those days. Our mobile traffic was generated by a variety of devices that utilized what is called WAP, which was the first generation of mobile browsers. WAP delivered a less than fully satisfying experience to respondents, and for those of you who've never taken a survey with a WAP-enabled device, the primary disappointments included a limitation of one question per page. So you had issues around things like an other specify box and table structures. And just to say, we still see WAP users today in our traffic, although no longer in the US or Europe. They're coming from other regions. So in June 2007, when Apple's first iPhone was released on the market, our mobile usage statistics made their first radical change. The iPhone incorporated a superior browser, and almost immediately our traffic reflected a high usage of iPhone devices. Within a month of its use, it was more than half of our overall mobile traffic. And shortly thereafter, we were beginning to see mobile traffic growing at a more incremental level on a quarter-by-quarter basis. So the iPhone has been the lead device used for mobile surveys from July 2007 to the present. But stay tuned, because we'll present some newer statistics now. But what this shows is the tremendous power that the introduction of the right device can make on human communications and, in turn, impacting our industry. So prior to 2010, the percentage of traffic from mobile devices held fairly steady at 2 to 3% of our overall traffic. And then in 2010, we saw quite a big leap up to the 5% range. It continued to increase in 2011, and in the first quarter of this year, we formally presented findings based upon our metadata, which indicated that for the period January 1 through March 31st, 2012, and across all worldwide regions, just over 17% of our traffic was generated by respondents who were using mobile devices. So this shouldn't come as a surprise to any of us, because, you know, after all, we're the people who study markets, and we've known that the smartphone has been the most rapidly growing segment of mobile device sales for the last few years. It's now finally become the dominant mobile device type in terms of overall usage. So this year, smartphone ownership reached a majority in the U.S. with 50.4% of mobile subscribers now using smartphones, and in certain demographics, you know, in the 25 to 34-year-old population, we're at 2/3 penetration. Many European countries are now above the 50% mark as well, or quickly nearing it, and on the worldwide scale, smartphones are projected to reach half of the global market share by 2015. So even a lot of developing nations are following the trend here. Tablets like the iPad and Galaxy, which I'm including in all of the mobile numbers that you see throughout this presentation, are gaining ground rapidly as well, and it's projected that more than 100 million tablets will have been purchased worldwide by this year's end. So these are really staggering figures when it's realized that 85% of the world's population lives in developing nations. And according to the ITU, of the world's 6 billion mobile phone subscriptions, 73% are now in the developing world, even though those countries just account for 20% of the world's GDP. But in the developing regions, the smartphone is really even more important to improving the quality of life and communications than it is elsewhere in the world, often because mobile devices are the only lifeline to news, e-commerce, and other important services available via the internet, and really providing the potential to rapidly move market research data collection online through mobile devices in these regions. Then the rise of social media is another important signal that mobile is here now as a strong and present force in market research. Nearly half of all Facebook users access it from their mobile devices from time to time, and the company has reported that 1/3 of its overall traffic is generated from mobile usage. So those social media launches that Ray was talking about always generate and up the ante on mobile traffic. Twitter reports even higher statistics. 55% of its traffic is generated by members who are accessing it from their mobile devices. And while the figures are much lower for LinkedIn, which, you know, a B2B site with only 10% of page views there, its mobile traffic grew 400% during the last fiscal year, so it is increasing too. And then additionally, location check-in services such as Foursquare are readying consumers and potentially research respondents for the expanding use of location-based technologies that also employ social media communications. So the so-called SOLO-MO, combined usage of social media, location-based services, and mobile devices at one time is key to many new market research methodologies that utilize a mobile-only design for data collection at the point of sale or consumption. 2012 delivered the most significant rise in our mobile traffic yet, and now we're seeing it increase on a quarter-by-quarter basis. Today, as I mentioned, mobile device usage represents 30.74% of our overall survey traffic. And this figure is comprised of all types of mobile devices, including tablets. The number is up substantially from the first quarter of this year, when the percentage was 25.5%. Our survey traffic, mobile survey traffic in the European region is significantly lower than it in the U.S. at 7.43% for the third quarter. I think this is partly because as a U.S. headquartered company, a large portion of our client base conducts its studies stateside, and we have more of a longer track record here. But lower European rates are not exclusive to Kinesis. Other survey platform providers are also reporting higher mobile traffic in the U.S., so it is a valid trend. Additionally, I think it's worth noting that we saw a significant increase in European mobile device usage between the first and third quarters, as you can see on the chart. So it is growing quite significantly. And it's also important to note from the numbers shown here that both U.S. and global figures include all survey traffic, which means that in some instances the projects might be designed for mobile respondents, but in other cases they might not be, meaning the projects could be programmed as a typical online survey and it's just mobile respondents creeping in. If we dive into the data a bit deeper, it's important to note that these mobile traffic percentages just reported only reflect those respondents who started to take a survey. It does not reflect the actual percentage of those who did complete. So given that the statistics are pulled irrespective of the underlying methodology, which really from our metadata can't be known to us, some of these respondents were intended for mobile-only projects. An example is mobile ad testing, in which the respondents indicate recall of advertising that they've seen on mobile sites. And some respondents entered surveys programmed to support desktop browsers only, or some projects may have been designed to support dual-mode surveys, which would support either desktop or mobile browsers. So this table provides Kinesis' survey dropout and completion rate statistics from the third quarter and differentiates the rates based upon the type of browser used, depending on whether it's a desktop or a mobile browser. And again, in this instance, tablets are included with mobile browsers. Globally, 14.66% of those using mobile browsers on the Kinesis platform are completing the survey online, or completing the online survey that they enter, versus 29.38% for desktop browsers. So again, these statistics are irrespective of whether the survey was programmed to support their particular, a mobile browser or not, and irrespective of survey length and methodology. They are representing mobile respondents across all kinds of surveys, regardless of the type of respondent support or length offered. And while a 14.66% completion rate seems low, I think the statistics make sense considering that mobile respondents are more likely to terminate from a standard length desktop online survey, which represents the majority of online survey traffic. So interestingly, we saw a drop in completion rates since our first quarter stats, but it looks like this wasn't a result of increased dropouts per se, voluntary dropouts, but rather because more respondents were being involuntarily terminated from surveys, either because they were not the right profile or a quota was full. So this could indicate that clients are taking more control now in surveys that are programmed to accept multi-mode respondents by terminating mobile respondents from lengthy or mobile inappropriate surveys up front. And it will be interesting to look at these stats again in the first quarter of 2013 to see if that's a real trend or not. Regardless, as reported by Kinesis and others, lower completion rates on mobile devices are yet another red flag for our industry, that it's ultimately respondents and not us who are in charge here. When it comes to device usage for mobile survey taking, we see a significant difference between the US and Europe. Naturally, many of us expect the statistics to mirror underlying market share patterns, but actually ownership often reflects a lifestyle, and so this hasn't necessarily been the case. While the iPhone dominates mobile survey participation stateside at 46.93%, in spite of the fact that it no longer holds the lead in US smartphone market share, iPhone usage in Europe is much lower at 13.62%. Interestingly, the iPad devices are highest in the European region, accounting for a sizable 63.94% of their mobile traffic. And as for Android devices, they lead over the iPhone in Europe, but not in the US. Looking back to our first quarter stats on this metrics, the most radical changes we saw were the huge iPad usage growth in both regions. So iPad usage growth in Europe from 30.93% the first quarter to 63.94% the third quarter resulted in usage declines percentage-wise for both the iPhone and Android platforms, which were at 28.24% and 31.9% respectively earlier in the year. And again, just showing how the right device catching hold of the market really changes things for communication patterns and has the impact on our industry as well. Another interesting finding here is that while the iPad usage grew so dramatically, we also saw a decline in completion rates by respondents using iPads. And it could be the novelty effect wearing off, or because the majority of tablet users check email on these devices, they clicked on survey links and encountered Flash or other elements that don't render on iPads. So it really remains incumbent on programmers and survey designers to start planning appropriately. So our U.S. mobile traffic now accounts for almost 1/3 of overall traffic and approximately a sixth of our worldwide survey traffic. Both of these stats are very significant and represent a major increase from just 1 year ago. And all of this data, I think, points to the mobile tipping point as having occurred in 2012. It confirms that anyone conducting online data collection must now embrace mobile respondents. Obviously, mobile device usage and web browsing is higher among certain age and socioeconomic groups as well as in certain geographic regions, but market researchers should expect and anticipate that some percentage of survey access in nearly every research project today will be from mobile devices and therefore must support mobile respondents accordingly. These data from ourselves, other research agencies and vendors and trade associations really need to be pushed to the end client so that they understand the tremendous non-response bias that's created by a failure to program surveys to support mobile respondents, which, by the way, does not mean programming a survey that a respondent can scroll 2 ways and see a large grid on a mobile screen. But more importantly is a failure to translate the research methodology in accordance with the new manner in which people in society communicate today using a wide variety of devices in combination with social media. There's several other mobile best practice considerations that I'm not going to have time to cover today. The topics go to the invitation modes, the question type selection, the branding and use of images and video, a lot of the legal concerns around privacy policy, use of location-based services and that sort of thing. But there are many, many white papers out there from ourselves and other vendors and research agencies. And in addition, I'll just mention that our mobile stats white paper will be updated on our website within a week or so with some additional data augmenting what I presented here today. But this is the first time we've presented the third quarter stats. So to conclude, the fundamental shift in the manner which society communicates, shops, makes purchases, is necessitating, I think, grave change within our industry. The market research practices are adapting to this change, and a bit slowly, but they are coming. More exciting for us as researchers, I think, are the tremendous opportunities that are present today to explore the manner in which mobile devices are used in product marketing, shopping, and purchasing, and the ability to capture all of this in real time. Mobile technology is going to enhance our data sets with location information, media capture, provide more immediate and dynamic feedback from respondents, and hopefully increase the accuracy of data that previously relied upon recall. The tipping point has occurred, and I have no doubts that in the not too distant future, mobile devices will become actually the dominant devices used by respondents in our industry. So thank you so much for your time today, and I'm happy to field any questions as time permits.